Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to another edition of Q&A where you ask the questions and I attempt to answer them to the best of my ability. I would love to see you cover the talk site feature exclusive to firmware 4.1.1 on your full review. This is regarding Boox. They called it meeting notes on their product launch video. I've been excited for Boox to release their own version since iFlyTech introduced the idea. Well, slight correction, because Huawei MatePad Paper and Lenovo Smart Paper both had these types of approaches way before, but yes, iFlyTech kind of took it further and implemented it in a really nice way. However, I'm having difficulties with finding where that functionality actually lives and where it is. Because yes, on the release notes video you do have literally, I think, 2 seconds of a footage of showing a screen actually doing what, iFlyTech AI Note 2 does, for example. I have my Go 10.3 now updated to 4.1.1 and the Note Air 5C is still with me here and it's now on 4.1.1 as well, and this morning it got the update for 4.1.2, so I haven't checked that. But with this one and the Note Air 5C, for the life of me, I cannot find that functionality anywhere. The audio recording within notebooks still functions exactly the same as it was. I can't really see it in any of the additional kind of options there. It's not in the AI assistant, which is technically just ChatGPT window, and it's basically nowhere to be found. And the only mention that I can find for that is what you referenced. Those 2, maybe 3 seconds of a, kind of glimpse of a feature and functionality, but it's not there. On their product launch video, they've clearly demonstrated that functionality as part of the release for Palma 2 Pro and for the Note Air 5C, yet either I'm completely blind or they've taken the obfuscation of the Boox user experience to a whole nother level, which we already see is the case with the 4.1. If the feature is there, I'm completely unable to find it, or maybe they've just planned to release it and it's not ready yet and they haven't released it yet. I don't know. Do let me know in the comments down below if you are able to find this mysterious feature that they've announced on their product launch feature, so that I can test it and check it out and compare it how it works with the AI Note 2. Hi, thanks for your videos. At some point you said it wasn't a good idea to use Boox Tab XC as an extended display. Why is that? Of course not for videos or things with too much colors, but for regular working like writing documents, coding, etc. Well, the reason behind that is that neither Apple nor Windows oriented or Linux oriented devices have an understanding whether they are dealing with an e-paper device or a monitor or not. Why does that matter? It matters with sending the refresh data. What does that mean? Your PC, your Mac or your Android phone or anything like that works at a steady refresh stream, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, sometimes even 240 frames per second. And that's okay for regular type of displays. Electrophoretic displays or e-ink displays, they function completely differently. They form an image by physically rearranging ink cells in it and then let them be. The preferred method of refreshing content on an electrophoretic display means that there has to be some mechanism involved that analyzes the previous frame and the next frame that the display needs to display, compares the differences, and updates only the section of the screen that has been refreshed. And that is handled by a dedicated software or hardware driver. These devices do not have a hardware or software driver in place for that type of optimizations, and the computers don't either. So what happens is that the computers will treat an electrophoretic display as a normal one and will force it to refresh the entirety of the screen at rates that it can maximally achieve. Why is that a critical point? Because electrophoretic displays have a fixed or a limited amount of refresh cycles that each ink cell can actually go through minimum maximums, And although it counts in millions, which is more than enough for like 10 years worth of use case of regular e-paper screens, if you were to treat it at 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, or the maximum that the panel can actually physically do, you are literally going to spend the screen, or to spend the lifetime of the screen, way more quickly than what it was designed to do. So that's the reason why. Main downside of all of these Boox devices is that they are all heavy. Well, yes and no. I mean, really depends what you compare it to, because, you know, Remarkable devices are also heavy, Kindle Scribe devices are also heavy, like most of the 10.3-inch devices are heavy if you're talking about 10.3-inch devices. But if you're talking about, you know, Boox Go 7 series, for example, that's not really that heavy at all. So I'm not really sure what you are referring to, which categories of devices you are referring to, because Boox has an enormous range. Get your mind out of the gutter there, please, of devices. But I don't find Boox devices in general to be heavier than equal competitors. That's not really something that I've noticed as a dramatic or a characteristic that I can attribute to their devices. Great video, thank you. Always appreciate your thoughts. I have one of these coming and can't wait to test it out. I'm at a loss on the pen from what I have seen you and David over at Tablet Tech show about it. It just seems like such a miss for Boox, almost an unforced error. I'm also very interested in the keyboard cover with this. Do you think this is their way of combining the Tab Ultra C Pro and the Note Air 4C? Thanks again for the video. Well, depending on, I forget where my schedule is, so whether this Q&A is going to be just before or just after the Note Air 5C review, but I do cover the flipbook cover in the review, so you've either seen my opinion on that or you are about to see it. But generally, just to kind of summarize, it's not that great because of several reasons. First one is that the quality is not that great. Second one, you are locked into just one keyboard layout. And the third one is that you don't have an adjustable angle. And the fourth one is, while the new cover, flipbook cover, does have a hole for charging, the flipbook cover with the keyboard doesn't. It's maddening. As for whether or not they're trying to kind of phase out C Pro or anything, at this point, I think trying to make sense and logic and basically, you know, thinking that Boox has an actual plan why they are doing this and there's like a strategy to these things. I've been covering them now for a really long time, and I genuinely think that Boox is a completely reactive type of a company, and that they don't have like a long-term strategy plan or anything like that. I think that they have a rough idea and that they're just kind of floating in the water and then see where the currents take them, and yeah, where the market takes them and things like that. That allows them that level of agility, but it also means that that level of agility comes at a cost of what the hell is going on some of the times. Like we've seen with the pen design for the Note Air 5C and some other things as well. This one is also regarding Note Air 5C. Hi, do you find the screen and the color better than the Note Air 3C? Would it be worth an upgrade? I'm also wondering if you know how Boox manages to better this kind of screen, since it's still Kaleido 3, as I am aware of. I really like your work. Do I find the color content better on the 5C than on the 3C? Actually, no. I do not find the color content itself better, but I do find that the front light is better on the 5C than it is on the 3C. So that will give an impression of a whiter paper, and that whiter paper is going to create an illusion of better color representation. So your end effect is that you will perceive the colors as nicer and more natural and more slightly more poppy than they are on the 3C, but in the actuality they are not better rendered or more accurately rendered than on the 3C. On the contrary, there's a little bit worse, nothing really perceptible, just, kind of measuring kind of thing, but they are a little bit worse than on the 3C, but that doesn't really matter that much when you combine it with that front light, because what you get to perceive is something that looks nicer than it does look on the 3C. Thanks, great content as always, thank you. How is the performance? I love my Palma, but it has a hard time pushing my admittedly bloated Obsidian volts. Unfortunately, Boox provides no details on the exact processor. Well, it is a more powerful processor than on the Palma 2 general one. If you check the review, I think that I showed the CPU-Z findings of which CPU it is. I've gone through so many devices in such a short amount of time that I really don't remember which exact CPU it is, but I know that it's an 8-core CPU with 8 gigs of RAM. So it's a very, very capable and current SoC, which should provide for a better type of experience. Although I'm not an Obsidian user, so I have absolutely no idea how it's going to be able to cope with something like that. For monochrome e-ink tablet, what would be the best one for writing? I don't need front light, I actually prefer without it. Does the Note Max have a better writing feel, or do you have any other that you recommend? And this is in regards to the Boox Go 10.3. I think that the Note Max absolutely has a much better writing feel than the Go 10.3, and it has to deal with the hardness of the glass screen on the Go 10.3, and that's something that I always kind of had a bit of a meh with the Go 10.3, because you really do feel that glass like you do on the Remarkable 2 and like you do on the Remarkable Paper Pro. Although Paper Pro is not monochromatic, so that's out of the equation. Note Max definitely feels better because it's kind of softer and it has more give because of a bigger surface. And generally speaking, if I come to think about it, I'm like finding a hard time to find, other than Quaderno A4 Gen 2, that one definitely has a best writing feel of all of the monochromatic devices. But yeah, I mean, it's a device that has serious flaws. It's not something that I would recommend on a day-to-day basis. But if you're looking for a Boox device and Note Max is on your radar, yeah, and writing feel is the priority, then absolutely it will outshine Go 10.3, but you need to be aware of the ghosting issues on the Note Max. But a good compromise and the best overall compromise that I would actually recommend is the Note Air 4C, because that one has excellent writing feel with a front light compensating for the darkness. It's really, really good. You do get that front light and you get the colors as well. So it's something that I would personally recommend. It's something that I would personally recommend if the ghosting issues on a Note Max are a deal breaker for you. If not, then Note Max it is. Fantastic video, thank you. I really appreciate the considerable attention you put into your analysis and the way you effectively demonstrate your points. You take the time to support your perspective, and that is really valuable. Honestly, I'm ready to purchase the Boox Note Air 5C, but if you're so perturbed by what you've experienced with the company and OS platform, then please guide us to the next best alternative. For me, I'm looking for a 10.3-inch size device that is color and is not a closed ecosystem. Example, Remarkable. I'm not upgrading from anything. What alternatives are you going to recommend? I'm still eagerly awaiting your full review of the Boox Note Air 5C. Well, it's kind of strange that you mentioned that Remarkable is a closed system. What makes Boox open? I mean, okay, granted you will get a Google Play store, but that has nothing to do with the note taking in your documents and in your notebooks. As far as the core functionality of these devices, which is marking up and processing documents and taking handwriting notebooks or serving as an e-notebook, those are all closed down. It's like Boox, Remarkable, Supernote, yeah, that's just how it is. Kindle, doesn't matter. Because there isn't a standard, as I've discussed in one of my previous Q&A videos, there's no standard that we can use to be shared and make in an open source type of a platform. We don't have something like that yet, unfortunately. So from that point, that's not something that exists. And if we look at it from that perspective, my recommendation would go to Supernote Mantia any day of the year, simply because it provides for an awesome amount of power and functionality, not such a brutal learning curve like Boox, and it offers similar levels of focus type of frictionless kind of operations like the Remarkable platform does. And on top of that, they've now recently introduced the server link and the Supernote private cloud functionality, which actually takes it considerable amount of notches above the competition as far as privacy, security, and owning your own data goes. This is regarding the update 3.25 video. Your video is pretty spot on. Only problem is that Supernote devices do not support WPA3 Wi-Fi access. I can't connect my Nomad to most enterprise Wi-Fi because they don't have WPA2 anymore. Here's where the modularity concept and the genius of it comes into play, because while maybe the current Wi-Fi board doesn't really support that, the modular aspect of the Nomad and Manta means that it might be possible, if Supernote actually does that, to release a new motherboard with a more powerful SoC, with the support for Android 15, for example, and maybe the Wi-Fi adapter that does have WPA3 support. And it doesn't end there, because maybe the new board can actually support encrypted storage as well. And if Supernote would release that, then you wouldn't need to buy a whole new device. You would just swap out the motherboard or the Wi-Fi adapter, and presto, be done. We don't have any other device on the market that has even potential for something like that. Those are all of the questions for today's Q&A. I hope that you found them informative and or useful. And do remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and also ask more of your questions in the video description down below, because that's the first place that I look for when I'm collecting questions for the upcoming episodes of Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!